Just Made Media presents One on One, a video podcast featuring exclusive interviews and live performances, the New York edition, recorded live in Brooklyn at the Greenhouse Recording Company. Please like and subscribe to our channel for dope content.
All right. Another episode of One on One, our second episode ever here in New York. Big shout out to the whole crew again. Jesse Raxon just rocked. Pleasure to see that. Mo is in the house on the boards. Big up to Gigi. And we got my man Chase Calor on the cameras. And without further ado, I want to introduce to you the owner of the studio that we're sitting in right now here in Brooklyn, Greenhouse Recording Studio in BK. We got my man, Master Engineer Willie Green. Hi.
My man, pleasure to be here, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited. We go back very long way, man. Decades.
We actually put in decades by now, you know what I'm saying?
Legit decades. That's for real, man. I'm excited to be here, be a part of your new endeavors, everything you got going on.
Word.
I'm excited. I'm proud of everything you're doing, man. It's beautiful.
Yo, thank you. It means a lot coming from you. Old friends, and I'm so happy to be here. We're not going to do a live production set today, but when we're in the midst of a master engineer such as Willie Green, we're going to get the scoop about not only we're going to catch up and just do a little breakdown of how I know Willie Green and what he's been doing in his career, but he's going to give us a little video tour of his studio and try to drop some good words of advice out there for producers, engineers, anybody who's like really trying to focus on the quality of their sound and investing into themselves and advancing what they do with gear. Then, you know, let's hear it from a guy like Willie Green. But before we get into the technical side of things, we're going to just talk about where my man comes from and how he got started in music. I know you're from more the New England side, right outside of New York.
Yeah.
And let's just start from the beginning, like how you got into music and then how you got into hip hop culture.
Yeah, for sure. Born and raised in the Hartford, Connecticut area. My family's from there, still there. And I came up in a bit of a musical family. My uncle specifically, my godfather, was a guitar player, singer, songwriter. And he also had a studio. That's the first studio I was ever in coming up.
Word.
But this man, he gave me my first drum machine, my first keyboard, my first drum kit. Before I was making beats and everything, I was playing drum set.
And that much I did know about, that you're a very accomplished drummer, actually. Have you still staying up with drums nowadays?
Every now and then, I pull out the drums, I mic them up, and I'll play on a track or something. If I need live drums, why hire somebody else if I do it myself?
You can do
Keep
it
the budget
yourself.
low, right?
That's right, man. Getting exclusive drums, you know?
Exactly.
Word. All right, yeah. So then from there?
Yeah, so I grew up and then I'm playing in my uncle's band. He had a cover band. We would play old reggae joints. We would play a lot of Motown, soul stuff. So I grew up in the 80s. So of course I'm around hip hop and that's a lot of my upbringing, but also learned the classics.
No doubt.
And specifically like learned them from a musical standpoint, not just, I like that song, but like I need to learn how to play that song. I need to learn what that song is about, the arrangements, because we were a dance band. We go and we be in the clubs Friday, Saturday. I'm 15, I'm sneaking in.
Nice.
But we got to, I'm the drummer. My job is to keep everybody in the room dancing.
No doubt.
If they're not dancing, I'm not doing my job.
Right.
So when it comes to making beats later on, it's like, okay, I have an idea on how different beats can move a room. Different beats can shape emotions on a record, because I learned to be a professional playing these things. So that was always the job.
That much I didn't know about your past. I knew you did a lot of drumming, but I didn't know that you were in a cover band that young.
Yeah, it really shaped everything. And everything, just like being professional. It's like, don't be late to the gig. Because the band leader's the band leader. First, he's got the dough. So, I got to be responsible then. But it's also my uncle, right? So if I'm messing up on the gig, I got to hear about it at the next, Sunday dinner, or he's, or whatever. Like, and I'm not going to let him down. That's my godfather.
Sure.
So it taught me the responsibility of being, on time, being professional. Because for me, the stakes was high. I'm young. I'm in the band. I'm the youngest one in the band. So I got to be extra on point, because I can't have them looking at me like, yo, the kid's got to go.
Right.
I got to show up.
You're going to be the first one that they pick up. Like, maybe it's that kid. Like, what's he doing here anyway? You know what I mean?
Exactly. And if I'm 15, everybody else in the band is twice my age, 3 times my age. And so I got to be on their level. They're not coming down to my level. So I got to grow up to match them.
Word. Wow, it's powerful. So I think I remember from when we was first getting together, you were telling me how you went to the Berkeley school?
I did. I went to Berkeley College of Music, late 90s, early 2000s. And I got a degree there in music production and engineering. So I have a background very much as a trained, studio engineer. I know what this mic does versus that mic and that kind of thing. But that was around the time I really got started into my own beat making and my own creation of my stuff.
Word.
And so it's like, all right, well, we got the studio classes here, but I want to make beats like this. You know what I mean? I'm learning this in school, but I'm listening to Black on Both Sides. I'm listening to Reflection Eternal. It's like, I want to make this. How do I blend the two? So that's kind of how, that was the beginning of the ride that got me here, where I'm a hip hop engineer at what I like to think is a high level. I ain't
No
gotta
doubt.
lie about it. I do my thing, but it's because of years and decades of training to be professional at whatever my craft is.
Word. And you know what? To think about how far back we go, doing shows right here, like towards downtown Brooklyn.
Yeah, man.
And getting to know everyone for what would become Backwoods as we know it now.
Yeah.
I had my thing, Stolen Music Imprint. Now it's called Stolen Sound System. But we rocked with like NASA and Uncommon, and we were just like a lot of little independent hip hop crews, hanging out downtown. And to think about now, I mean, your name is synonymous with like underground independent hip hop recording, like a part of like what the sound is and how an engineer should approach it on the highest level. You know what I'm saying? So
I appreciate that.
This is where it's come from.
Yeah.
And back 15 years ago, we running around here. We didn't know he was getting into all that.
No,
You
it
know
was
what I mean?
wild nights out, parties all over, all over Brooklyn, all over New York. We were in certain clubs, house parties, wherever, and it was just, we're making music, we're making records together, but it was also just the homies hanging out and creating.
That's right.
In a way that, we all keep it honest, and I like to believe that the music I make is honest. It comes from an honest place.
No doubt.
Like, if you hear a record I did, like, I believe in it. You know what I mean? If you hear a beat that I made, I love it because that's what we do here. But it was an honest way then where, like, the stakes weren't necessarily as high. Now it's like my family's survival relies on what I do here.
That's right. We got mouths to feed, baby.
Yeah, like, like, we weren't playing games before, but there's no time for games now. We can enjoy what we're doing, but it's my job. Then it was like, yo, I got a really dope beat. Man, I want Zesto to rhyme on it. He rhymed on it. It's crazy. Dope. You know what I mean? It's ill. We had that joint, The World Peace.
That's right.
One of my favorite records I ever did. And that's, 12, 13,
Respect.
14 years old. And that's still my cut. And it was from an honest place.
No
just
doubt.
did it together because it's like, yo, it's my man. Let's make this track.
True.
And so it was nice then. I moved to New York around 07 or so. And, trying to make a lot of way, but it was also meeting people, making connections, and finding the people that, I'm going to ride with going forward.
No
You know what I
doubt.
mean? So, you mentioned Backwoods. That was around the same time I met Billy Woods and started doing records with them, starting with the last Supercrime Flight Brothers album. And then we did History Will Absolve Me, and everything kind of rolled on from there.
That's right.
And now, I don't even know what country this man is in. The tours are so crazy.
Yeah, and big up to Woods and Elucid. Me and Gigi live in Chicago. We've been able to see them in Chicago when they're on tour, so, and it's cool. And we seen sometime either early this year or last year, Prem Rock came through. I know that's your people.
Yeah, that's my brother right there. Yeah.
He was like, they were like, Zesto, what are you doing in Chicago? I was like, I live here now, so, but it's beautiful to see these guys working, seeing the fruition. I always knew in my heart of hearts that what we were all involved in was special, and it's all coming to pass. You're seeing the reaping the crop of what seeds were planted. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's one thing when we're all just doing it because we believe in it, but when you see everybody else feeling it,
that's right.
Like, then it feels good to see people up on it. Like that, it's a different energy,
right?
And it's like, yo, it's validating. So let me push harder. You don't sit back on it. It's like, oh, they feeling it? All right, well, here comes the next one. Here comes the next one, right?
There's a little bit of anticipation that you can now put behind the momentum and all that.
Exactly. Puts a little bit of a battery in your back, and it's like, all right, we're doing it, and it's resonating. And you meet people and like, yo, that song that you did, like, I felt that. Whatever moment I was in my life, like it captured that moment. It meant something to me then. That's the ill thing. Where someone be like, yo, your music moved me. That's a powerful thing, That's not a small idea that something I did when we were making records just in the crib, or now in my studio, in my business, where I've been able to develop all this, is still moving a complete stranger in a way that they could feel something. That's not a small thing. I don't
It's
take that for
priceless.
granted.
It's
Exactly.
priceless.
Exactly.
Word. So, a lot of people know me as an artist. I've been a DJ since I was 17. That's what got me kind of into making beats and even rhyming more seriously. But aside from being an artist and trying to do that, I've also been an engineer. My development as an engineer was intense. I also went to college for it, SUNY Purchase, and I did study it. But I think I didn't necessarily take advantage of my time while I was there to get as technical as I could have. But I got technical enough. My fundamentals are there. And I really began to engineer a lot because I was just the one with the equipment. You know how that goes. So people, yo, Zess, you got recording equipment? Let me come through. So boom, I started recording people. But I want to talk to you a little bit about what my experience has been like opening up different studios throughout the years.
Yeah.
And maybe we can get into that.
Yeah.
Usually it starts out that you're just a dude in an apartment and you have a room that you rent and you put whatever shit you own into a room.
Yeah.
And then eventually what happens is you say to yourself, I think I know what I'm doing more. I have to find a place to put this stuff. And you take a leap of faith and you're like, I'm going to actually open up a studio. You know what I'm saying?
That's that moment.
That's the moment. So I do remember when I first met you, you were talking about you had a spot up in Yonkers. Is that correct?
I was going out there. It wasn't my spot, but there was a studio that was out there, and I think I found a Craigslist ad. They were looking for people to go out there and work. So I went up there and I interviewed, and I was making the trek. It's like from where I'm at in Brooklyn, it was like an hour and a half, hour 45 each way every day just to go out there just to find some place to make records. So when I first moved to New York, I was managing what at the time was the biggest studio in Manhattan.
Oh yeah?
It was called Legacy Recording. Two big studios combined. Right Track Recording and Sound on Sound Recording combined.
And where's that located?
Well, and it's gone now because it's literally it's a condos now because that's what Manhattan needs, more condominiums. But I got a gig there. I was the night manager. We had 6 rooms. We had 3 SSLs. I mean, it was wild. We had crazy mic collection.
And when he says SSL, you mean like 48 track board?
I'm talking 96 track, big, huge consoles. One of the rooms was an orchestral recording stage. So there would orchestras come in, and this was like the illest spot. So you might have Mariah Carey in Studio A. You might have Kanye mixing Graduation down in Studio B or Studio C or whatever. And you're in there and it's like, this is the energy of, all right, I moved to New York, like I'm about to get on now. That was in 07. In 08, the economy crashed.
That's right. People were not, when the economy's up, there's more random money around to just invest into art projects. That's just what it is. And these studios depend on that kind of money to be liquid. You know what I'm saying?
Right, exactly. The economy crashes, and then what happens is that I was the night manager. There was also a day manager, and they didn't need a third manager when the economy crashed because they're trying to tighten their belts. So I went from, I'm in this huge studio, I'm on top of the world, I'm doing my records there at night. So, day I'm managing, at night, Woods is coming in and we recorded a lot of that last Super Crown album there.
Okay.
Right before we did the last session, I got laid off. We finished that album in my apartment. We did All the History Will Absolve Me there in my apartment, Mike in the kitchen right over there by the stove. You remember that?
Right.
We used to do all of those. And that was the point where it's like, all right, everybody's out of work. Woods has lost his job too. And I said to my then girlfriend, my now wife, we just moved in like a week before I got laid off.
Damn.
And I was like, look, I got 9 months of unemployment. Give me 8 months to make this record thing work. And if that doesn't work, if I'm not starting to get business and bringing some dough, we'll call your uncle and I'll get a job selling insurance. And it's going to be that. And it was that close. It was that close. And so 7, 8 months in, we're about halfway through History Will Absolve Me. I've got a little random gigs here and there. I'm going up to Yonkers and all that. And the money's starting to flow a little bit where it's like, okay, like we can do this. Because my wife is very supportive of what I do, and she always has been. And, you know, she used to have a blog, Rappers in My Kitchen, because she would come home from work and it would be Zest on the mic in the kitchen, like, yo, one more verse, hold on, and then you could cook, you know, whatever.
Rappers in My Kitchen. I didn't know y'all made that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
You know, she always held me down. But there's also a point. It's like, I'm gonna hold you down, but you need to also hold up your end of the deal. If we're gonna live together, if we're gonna get married, we're gonna have a family, you gotta hold your end up. And that's fair, right?
No doubt.
And so I got to that point where it's like, all right, like we making it. And then slowly but surely, like we built up more and more. And I was building up enough to the point where like I would start to have an assistant. Like I often have a staff. Right now I have 2 assistants. I've got Mose, I've got Kayla, who's a SUNY Purchase graduate as well.
Oh, that's what's up.
I was teaching there. I hired her after she graduated out of the program. I taught there for a couple years. You know, I keep young folks around me so I can know what's hip. I'm the OG now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, but
you always got to tap into the youth. You know what I'm saying?
I got to know what they're doing so I can stay current. Because I can just get in my bubble and be like, nah, I make beats like this, and in 03 I did this shit. No one cares about 03. Like, we talking about right now, like what's popping right now, I gotta stay plugged in. So I keep talented young folks around so I can stay on my toes, right?
Sure.
But I started having a little bit of a staff. I started having more and more sessions. And my wife started being like, hey, yo, like, this is a lot. I'm trying to come home from work, sit down, relax. The weekends, you got people in here all the time. Like, what's the plan here? And the plan was I gotta expand. I got to bet on myself, like you're saying, and take that leap to go out and enter into a new space.
Word up.
So I started renting space in Brooklyn and around here for a lot of folks. That's, you know, basement of a warehouse is chopped up into little rooms and everyone's got their studio. And so, you know, that was Greenhouse 2.0. And I started doing that. I had a booth and, you know, I've gained gear over time. And the one thing I'll say, you know, we were having the conversation earlier about, like, I got a lot of stuff in here. We'll see when we do the tour. And you don't necessarily need that stuff to be creative. There's tools that I like that I've chosen that are part of my process, but I try to buy responsibly.
Sure.
I don't buy every new thing that comes out.
No.
I do my research. I see what the resale might be on it. I see what the value is. Is it good quality? If you buy the cheapest thing, you won't keep buying things over and over again. And now you're just throwing money out the window. I'll spend more, get something better that I'm going to keep for a long time. I don't want to buy a new one of the same thing in 2 years. That's a waste.
That's right. And you know what? Let me speak on that real quick too, because I've always been a DJ and a producer and an engineer. So I've had to like buy equipment that can sort of help all of my causes simultaneously. And, you know, a lot of you out there can probably identify with this. You buy cheap and it's working until it's not. And it always seems the day that it doesn't work is the day that you're like, biggest shit's happening. It's like you're on stage. This is the time that you need that computer interface to work, or you need that, you know, you have a great artist coming through to your studio. That's your day to shine, and your shit breaks.
Cheap gear will embarrass you in front of everybody. I got a horror story on that, actually.
Okay.
I was doing sound at, I used to do sound at the French Institute up in like Midtown on 59th. And they brought in this new console, and there's this big concert. People had flown in from Africa for this big concert, and I'm mixing it. And in sound check, like, everything's going good. It's sounding great in the room, but they brought in this new digital console. I won't say the name of the company, but none of their gear is in this room. I'll tell you that, right?
Okay.
And packed house is like 500 people at this concert, and it's going. But during sound check, it's a digital board. The board like froze, and when the board freezes, it cuts the output to the mains, cuts the output to the house. And I told the manager of the other theater, I was like, "Yo, this thing froze. Like, I think we need to go back to our other console. I know that works. We'll be straight." He's like, "No. We're gonna use this. This is a new delivery or whatever." I'm like, "Okay," but I'm worried about it. He's like, "It's gonna be fine."
Oh man.
And I should have stuck to my guns. That was the moment right there. I was like, no, if I know I believe something as a professional, I'm riding with what I believe, and not what somebody else does.
That's right.
So lo and behold, middle of that concert, and I even told the cat who was working backstage with me, like, yo, if this goes down, I'm gonna hit you on the radio. You cut the amps. I'll start it, turn it off, turn it back on, let you know when to turn it back. So it's like 10 seconds. 10 seconds in the middle of a concert when all the sound goes out and everybody in the room was looking around, not even like this, looking back at me because they know, hey, you asshole in the back with the faders and the buttons, what happened to my concert?
Right.
500 people turn around, they staring at me, and I'm like, yo. And so we did it, and it was like 7 seconds. We did it quick. My man was ready. Shouts to Dan Costello. He was ready. He had my back that day. I will never forget Dan Costello for that. And he had my back. But that 7 seconds, and everyone in the room turned around and looked at me. Later that week, there was a write-up in the New York Times. And they were like, great concert, except for that time with the sound cut out. And luckily, they didn't know my name. But that's when I knew that's never going to happen to me again, where somebody else sets me up to
That's
fail.
right, to fail. And you know what? Big shout to Chase. We work in the audiovisual industry in Chicago. We work in all the hotels and stuff. And people are always setting people up who do technical jobs to fail, because a lot of people who are not technical, they want this attitude of like, I don't really have to know what your labor is or what you have to go through to make this work for all of us. Or I know it's important, but please don't trouble me with the details. And you know what? We had a woman, I mean, you weren't on that job, but I had a woman one morning who had no like printout for us so we could know like what was going to happen across 4 hours. You got 6 people, 6-person
You
staff.
just flying by the seat of your pants for 4 hours?
Yeah, and she yelled at us. She goes, well, no one told me I have to come prepared with a run of a show for you. We're all looking at her like, lady, this is your show, man. You know, so I don't want to go on that tangent too long, but I just say that like, big shout out to everyone who takes the time to know how to run your gear. And you just know that like, people are relying on you and you're actually willing to be the guy that they want to rely on you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because part of the job is to be prepared, but I need the tools to properly prepare, right?
You're only as good as your equipment, really.
Exactly. And as good as your organization.
That's right.
Because you can have all the gear in the world, but if you don't let me know to run down the show, how am I supposed to produce your show?
Right.
Right? Like, I want to have, and that's why, you know, because DIY is not do it all by your damn lonesome by yourself in a closet. You put the right team around you. You put the right people around you that you know, okay, my left is covered, my right is covered. I can focus on what I'm doing, and everybody's got my back who I know around me. I can trust that.
That's right.
That matters.
Trust is important.
Yeah, that matters. Because look, if you can't trust your engineer, who can you trust?
That's right.
Right?
That's right. That's right. So all right, and getting back to putting together some of these studios. So at this point, because you had been rocking at your crib for a while, you were already established, like you had a sense, but every time I move into a new space, aside from moving to mad apartments throughout the years, the studio that we have in Chicago right now, Just Made Media, that's technically my 3rd studio. I had one upstate in the suburbs in Middletown, New York, and then right before the pandemic, we opened one in Brooklyn, and then before it took us to Chicago. But I get excited every time I know I'm going to be in a new room and it's time to like look at all the gear, like Lego pieces, and you start having to like conceptualize. And this is where the creativity of an engineer comes in, because that's when you learn definitively. There's really not a right or a wrong. There's what you have and how will you make it work, and you begin to construct it. So just maybe you can share for the audience a little bit about that frame of mind and what you know to be the right approach to like using your gear. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I do a bit of consulting on studio builds because I've done a bunch of them, you know.
Right.
And even before I moved down here to New York, I was building studios in Boston, and we were building walls, you know. So I learned basic construction. It's like, sure, we could hire someone to do this, or I can learn how to measure, put up some 2x4s, put up some drywall, put in the installation, do all that, you know. So it's, you know, the first question is, what do you want to do in the room? Right. If you're just mixing records, you don't need a vocal booth. You know, so use that space instead of building a booth there, use it for something else. If you are just, you know, recording drums, and that's the primary thing, and then you always send your stuff off somewhere else to be mixed, well, okay, you need the right microphones for that. You need the right acoustic space for that. You need the right preamps or whatever it is. So it really, you want to take a look at, what do I want to do in this space? Also, what might I like? Where do I want to be? What do I want to be doing 5 years from now?
Right. Right.
Because, if you want to be able to stay in that space, you don't want to outgrow it so fast. And it's like, okay, well, now I got to go somewhere else. If it's like, yo, I'm doing this, but I also would love to have like a great vocal setup where people can come in and record every now and then. Well, keep that in mind, right? So I do mostly mixing in here.
Yeah.
But I do still record a lot of vocals, and I need a booth where I know, okay, they're gonna go in, it's quiet, it sounds good, and good sounding vocal means an easier mix.
That's right.
You know?
And you know what? I don't know the next question, what you're about to say, but I'm curious to see what answer you would have for people. For most of us doing music, you know, at an affordable rate,
Mhm.
do you have any advice for what a new engineer can do with more of an inexpensive microphone and how they can put themselves in the best position to get a good vocal take on an inexpensive microphone?
Yeah, I mean, what's great about technology and music technology right now is, sure, you could go out and spend a ton of money on a really nice microphone.
Yeah.
But the more affordable stuff, the more inexpensive stuff has also gotten really good.
Mhm.
And like, I don't want to say lower end or cheap, because it doesn't necessarily it doesn't
Right.
it doesn't have to sound that way. And there's stuff out there that doesn't sound good.
Of
And
course, of course.
we don't need to talk about those companies
Yeah,
because
yeah,
we
yeah.
don't fool with them, right? And
Right.
that's and it's whatever, but do your research. Don't just go cop something because somebody down the block has it,
Mhm.
because you don't know why they got that. You don't know if that's what's right for you. If you can go somewhere where you're able to try out some microphones,
Mhm.
also think about, who are you recording? Are you recording yourself?
Mhm.
Then try microphones and get something that suits your voice.
Mhm.
Are you recording commercially, where different people are going to be coming in every day, every week? Maybe get something a little more neutral, or a little more versatile,
Mhm.
so it's going to suit more voices.
That's right.
Right? Different microphones sound different. That's why there's different microphones, not just one design, right?
No doubt.
So we need to think about, all right, well, I really think that I sound really good on like a vintage ribbon mic, and it's got like a dark, warm sound, whatever, for example. Okay, that's straight. But what happens when you have the pop singer come in next week and wants to do like the mainstream dance track? That's
Right.
not the right microphone for that. The microphone
Right.
is too specific.
Mhm.
So if that's what's right for you, have that for you. If you want to buy more than one mic,
Mhm.
or just get something versatile that can do a lot of jobs. Early on, when you're buying gear, I try to avoid buying single purpose
Yes.
things where
Yeah.
it's like, this thing is perfect for a guitar tone on this kind of song. Do you record that song every day?
Right,
If
right,
you
right.
don't, then maybe you need something a little bit more general field,
Mhm.
so you can capture more things. And then as your money comes up, as your work gets more and more involved,
Right.
then you can get the more specific things, right?
So, all right. So let's talk about it right now. I'm gonna say a mid-range price on a microphone is probably like $500, right?
Yeah, for $500, you can get a good, inexpensive, solid vocal condenser mic. Sure.
What do you think if you had to name one microphone that's out right now that you would say for rappers and for singers? Like what's hot, like in that so-called range right there?
Mm. For rappers and for singers,
Mhm.
around 5. I mean, that's like a sweet spot where there's a lot of companies making stuff that's right in that spot. Audio Technica makes nice mics in that spot. A lot of people have the 2020, and the 2020 is cool. The
Mhm.
AT 2020.
Mhm.
If you can find yourself an AT 4050, which is around that point, it's an older mic, so it's around there, maybe like 100 or so more. The
Mhm.
4050 is a great sounding mic. It's full, it's very versatile. It also sounds good on things like cello. 4050 is a great cello mic,
Okay.
So just like it can be used on different things. All right, recording the raps. Oh, okay. You want to put a guitar player in the song, you can throw that mic on the amp and still sound good. And
Sound nice.
so now you're doing multiple things,
So
right?
so that I mean, if it's gonna pick up a guitar, it sounds like a good also all around mic, maybe for piano, maybe
Exactly.
groups of people clapping or choir or
Exactly, something like that. Warm Audio makes, reproductions of like very expensive, like legendary mics,
okay.
but at an affordable standpoint. And they've got a wide range. So, I've got the Warm Audio 87. It's basically a U87 modeled mic. Now
Nice.
the Neumann U87 is a legendary mic. You can put an 87 on anything and you're doing good. Like you can get a workable sound, you can get an amazing sound, like whatever. You can't go wrong. That's a $3,500 microphone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're not just, as you're starting off, unless you got trust fund, don't go cop an original like Neumann U87. That's a lot of money. You could spend that budget out in other ways and like bring up your whole system.
That's right.
And not just that one, where the Warm 87 is like 6, maybe 7, and they do a lot of sales.
Word.
You know what I mean? Something like that. And the good thing with that mic is it's multi-pattern. Right, so it does cardioid where it gets just what's right in front of it. It does omni, so it'll do everything around it.
It's got a switch on it.
It's got a switch on.
Right.
Right. So now it's more flexible. It's more bang for your buck. Right. You know, specific tools are really nice if you've already got the general stuff, but get something that's flexible. So something like that, and that 4050 does the same thing. It's got the multiple polar patterns, like it's got all the different stuff.
And I want to just break some of this down that he's talking, because it's not that it's super advanced knowledge, but just for anybody who might be watching this in the future who may not know some of the terms, you know, cardioid versus omnidirectional. What it means is that these are different settings that microphones can be put on that they'll capture the sound differently for specific purposes, maybe more directed towards an object that you're recording versus more surround sound, for example. And for those who might be new to some of this knowledge, any kind of technical knowledge, don't be discouraged. The good thing about the internet age is that all these companies that make gear, they are in the business of making their information easy to get.
That's
you know, so like when we were coming up in the late 90s, everything was like a lot of mail order information, catalogs, magazines, stuff like that. The level of research you would have to do, you had to really go get it. The internet, give yourself 30 minutes on almost any subject matter. You know, don't let yourself be distracted on another Google search or whatever. In 30 minutes, you can get a base level knowledge of most things, I find, especially when it comes to commercial products that are being released. So he named a legendary mic, Neumann U87, and think about there might be 20 companies who are trying to mimic something that microphone once did. They're all in business to tell you about that. So if you heard of some hot shit that costs $5,000, somebody's working hard to make the affordable one.
That's right.
And it's a great place to start. You know what I'm saying? So,
you know, the internet, there's so much info. They're all making videos. They're all making content. You know, I mean, look, you make content to sell stuff.
We're making content right now.
You know, and buy our stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, you know, they're making content to sell stuff, but they're also trying to spread information. You know?
Right.
And I work with companies now. I've got sponsors. I've been lucky to get to that point, you know, and so I make videos and, you know, you can search me. I'm running my mouth all over the internet, but I'm trying to give good info. And think about, when I was coming up, I wish I had somebody tell me this.
Usable info.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, well, let me share that with folks who might not be in the room with me. Right. So I'll put it out there. The other thing, there's a very good website. It's called recordinghacks.com.
Okay.
And any microphone that you're looking for, they have a database of information on thousands of mics. You put it in the search engine and it'll come up and it'll give you info from the manual. It'll give you the frequency response curve. It'll give you, all the information about the mic, so you can just check it out and read about it. And then there's a great online audio store, zenpro.com.
Okay.
And you go to Zenpro, they've got a thing, they call it the Clipolator. And it's files. Every time a new piece of gear comes out, anytime whatever he has in the store, he runs, his cat Warren over there runs tests through everything and records all A/B tests and puts them up online. So if you want to hear how the Warm Audio 87 sounds on a vocal, on piano, on guitar, on drums, you could go to the Clipolator and listen to the microphone. And he tells you how he recorded it, and then you can hear for yourself, okay, that sounds like something. Oh, I want to hear it on male vocal. I want to hear it on female vocal. Okay, that sounds like something that I want to use for me. Or I don't like the sound of that. Maybe I want this other model instead. But there's ways to hear things and check out more than there ever was before.
Word.
And you got all those ways right there in your pocket.
That's right. That's right. So, all right, there's a couple more topics I definitely want to get to. Let's transition to these endorsements you've been getting. I just want to say this. So, like, you know, me and Willie go way back, so I'm always checking on his IG here and there whenever I get a chance. And I seen maybe like a year ago, and you pulled up something in his name, like, you know, when you go in the plugin preset, it says the Willie Green preset, like it's in the plugin. So I was like, oh, my man is showing off now. But that's like if you're a basketball player, you're a skateboarder, like getting an endorsement. To me, for engineers, that's like that you made it. You know, they put your name on some shit. You know what I'm saying? So go ahead and tell us a little bit about how, and I also see that you're part of like a recording council, and you make trips around country. You'll be at conventions, you'll be at schools, so talk about that part of your career right now.
Yeah, because all of that really came together, you know, basically out of me going and starting to do these talks. So I'm a member and former governor of the Audio Engineering Society, very active there. I'm a voting member for the Recording Academy. You know, when the Grammys roll around, like I'm voting on the Grammys.
Damn,
you know
my
what I
man's
mean?
voting on the Grammys.
You know? And it was just, it all came from early on. I will go to the AES, the Engineering Society, has a big convention every fall at the Javits Center. And I've been going there since I was in college. We would pile in my minivan and we would drive down and we would all roll up, right? And I would go there and then I would be like, yo, this is real great, but no one's talking about any kind of hip hop in here. No one's talking about what I do and what I love, and I approach it from a technical standpoint. But especially then, early 2000s or whatever, it wasn't being accepted as a technical skill at that point. You know, it's getting better now, still, but the Engineering Society and the Recording Academy, both of them, due to my efforts and efforts of a lot of other people, are really supporting and embracing hip hop, what we do technically, artistically, and all that. And I've seen a huge change. I've been part of a huge change where, like I said, I was elected governor of the AES for I was in for 2 years, and they were like, "What do you need from us for your efforts for hip hop education, for hip hop in recording schools, for hip hop just as being embraced as the technical work that you do? We got your back. What do you need?" And I really appreciate all those people. They embraced me. They're like, "We fool with what you do. How can we help you spread this word to other people?" And so initially, even before I'd started just doing little talks, and then I did the right talk in the right room, and some students. There's a college out in St. Louis. I want to give them a shout out, Webster University.
Okay.
They invited me. That was the first time someone was like, "Yo, please come out here and come and speak." Right? Because before I was like trying to get on little panels or whatever, and I went out there and I did a mixed breakdown. One of my records from my Doc Savage album.
Okay.
A song called "The Feathered Octopus," and that's got a Lucid on it. It's got Open Mike Eagle on it, who now are very big names, in independent hip hop. And I played this record, and again, the right people were in the room, and they were like, "Yo, this everything about this is wild. Can you come speak here? Will you be a part of this? Please join the AES." And this is where it started. Like, what can we do to
What year was
support
this?
you? That was probably maybe 2017. Doc Savage came out in 2016. And I met a very great friend of mine, Leslie Gaston Bird, who is now currently the president of AES, the first Black person, never mind the first Black woman, the first Black person to ever be president of the Engineering Society.
Okay.
And she's brilliant and a wonderful person. She saw me. She was like, "We need to elevate you. We need to support you. What can we do? Join the society. What can we do?" And from there, I started doing more talks and got more involved with things, and my name started ringing out more. Now my name's ringing out in the engineering world, not just the music world, the hip hop world, but in the technical engineering world.
Sure.
But for what we do. And
No doubt.
that was something, and still to this day, I make it a point. If ever I do a mixed breakdown or any kind of lecture or whatever or anything, I talk about the records that I make day to day. I talk about things I produced, or I talk about Arm & Hammer, or I talk about Prem Rock, or I talk about, whoever, like whatever we're doing, everything I'm saying is legit. And this is real legit engineering on a high level, but through the lens of independent hip hop.
And you know what? Like, genre-specific engineering is part of the magic of the genre. So it's important that that high level technical world understand that you can have someone like a Willie Green behind the boards, and he can still speak in the language that he needs to speak into for the artist, which may not always be about all that. It's more about capturing and documenting what they do best, but then still being a bridge so that the technical side of things, because you know what, as far as I'm concerned, our genre, our related genres of hip hop and beat making is so much a part of the economy of how all this equipment gets sold.
Oh yeah.
You know, and the decisions that corporate guys are making in boardrooms and stuff, they should be thinking about us. I mean, we're on the ground creating and driving the actual point of sale.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Hip hop influences all manners of music. You know what I mean? Somewhere right now, someone's making a country record, but they've got 808s in their record. Or they got a drum loop or something.
That's right.
That comes from what we do. That comes from the 70s. That comes from Kool Herc. That comes from Grandmaster Flash. That comes from you. That comes from me. That comes from the next generation.
Word.
So we're moving the needle on all this stuff. Never mind, we're buying the SPs out there. We're buying the MPCs out there. Like that, those are our tools.
Right.
And if you look at the content that companies are making now, they're keeping their eye on that and they're focusing it on that. And they're pushing in that way. And it's like, okay, well, you know, don't just sell to us, but also sell to us.
Yeah, sell to us for real.
Don't take what we do and then just try and sell it to everybody else. Like, meet me where I'm at.
You know, I really thought about this during the pandemic. I was sitting there and I got back into DJing right before the pandemic for maybe about 3 or 4 years. So all the out of work DJs and live sound engineers and all these people, I was like, where's all the equipment companies? Everyone's out of work, you know, everyone's getting a bailout, everyone's getting stimulus checks and stuff. And I was like, where's all the gear companies? Like throwing out endorsements and stuff, and like dudes need work. Like, you know, I don't know. And maybe I'm just being cynical because I was like out of work too, you know. I'm like, where's my bone? You know, but I just in my mind, I just was like, you know, I just felt like used for a second. I was like, we're all good to these companies when we're buying everything out the store, you know, and everyone's busy working. So we need more speakers and PA and boards and microphones and cables. Everybody's so happy to see us. And then when there's no work, it's like they never knew us. They never heard of us, you know?
Sure.
So anyway, that had bothered me. But I say it all to say that, like, we do have a role in keeping these companies honest. You know, who needs each other more? Do we need the gear or do they need us to buy it? I don't know, but like
it's honest. I mean, it's probably the latter. It's probably that they because if you're buying smart and your gear lasts, I don't necessarily need to replace something because it died. I might want to replace something with something better. So they need me to buy it. If not, I could keep, you know, look.
And you're a great poster child for it.
Yeah.
If you have some dependable shit, next time I come to the studio, what are you going to tell me? Oh, Zest, I just copped such and such, man. This would be great in your studio. You know what I mean? We're recommending things. You know?
Yeah, you know, and the thing I make sure, so starting to get visible through the engineering society, getting more visible, you know, later on, I've just been in the recording academy just for a couple years now, but getting more visible and being out there, you know, people are like, okay, you know, you're a good public speaker, you know, not on like, oh, you speak well shit, because that's a different thing. But, you know, I've done it enough of it now. Like, I'm a good public speaker, right? I can break things down well. Some people want to make videos with me using their gear and whatever. But as that started to increase, and I've been lucky to now I've got, you know, a large number of sponsors. I got maybe
let's talk about them.
10 to 12 companies that I work with. But I work with companies I believe in. And what's important to me is that if you see me online talking about a product, a piece of gear, a piece of software, or something, it's something that I would use. It's something that I use in my day-to-day. It's disingenuous to go out there and be like, oh yeah, and this new flanger slanger, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then like it goes in the cabinet and I'll never use it.
Right.
Because you might watch that video and be like, yo, Green told me to go cop the flanger slanger. It's here.
Right.
And then if it's whack and you're looking at me like, dog, you my man. Like you basically lied to me and everybody, you know, and and you know, look, it's the 50th anniversary of hip hop. Everyone's talking about hip hop all year long, and you know, we're hearing people recognize it. being a black man in America, I recognize everything is tenuous.
Sure.
And they will take the bag back if you fumble it too bad.
Yeah,
You know
you're
what I
right.
mean?
You're
And
right.
so, and that's on both sides too. If
Sure.
I'm out here talking some bullshit, our people are gonna be like, not just our people, but like our community, the hip hop community
word.
is gonna be like, Green, you bullshitting, man.
That's true.
We can't fool with you.
And you know what? That's an important role. Not to like be player hating or nothing like that, but part of being a real member of the hip hop community is to like protect our morals and protect our standards. You know what I'm saying? So
Especially in the independent lane that we're in, the honesty of the music is the most important thing. You can rap however you rap, your beats can sound however they want to sound. But when I hear a record that I love, it's because I believe what I'm hearing through the speakers. It's valid to me. I believe it. I'm invested in what I'm hearing. I approach anything that I'm talking about, any product, I approach it the same way. I had somebody literally this morning. I have a headphone sponsor. This company, Direct Sound, out of St. Louis.
okay.
I love their headphones. They're not a
Okay.
huge company, but their headphones are my favorites I ever had.
I was about to look for some new headphones. Yeah, maybe I'll check these out. Word up.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
for real. And I had someone literally hit me this morning. They were like, "Yo, you post about these headphones that you like for mixing. What are they again?" And I could just be like, "Well, yeah, buy this thing and whatever." But it's like, yo, somebody heard me say that I love these and now wants to go spend their dough on that.
That's right.
I don't take that for granted.
No.
The headphones better be legit.
Yeah.
Because someone is going out to spend, I don't know what their pockets are like. I don't know what their income is like. They're going to spend some money on something. They're making a financial decision. I don't want to misguide them doing that just because I tried to get a little come up.
Word.
Because that comes back to you. Once you get caught lying or exaggerating or whatever,
That's true.
that then dries up things later on. Oh, well, yeah, Green told me to go cop this, but I don't know, man, because those headphones they told me to get weren't it.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's interesting because yeah, we just, you know, like just tapping into like a lot of different people coming in and out of our studio and stuff. And this internet era, no offense, but it's kind of created this sort of like do and say anything on the internet that's not the same as the era that we came up in.
Yeah.
The internet has a magical power of making anyone or anything appear to be something that it may not be.
Everything on the internet is presented to you. And so you got to take it like this may or may not be true.
That's
Someone's
right.
presenting this to me like, you look on Instagram, it's all lies. It's all the best moments and the best edits of someone's best moment of their best day. They might be miserable as hell. A half hour before that and 2 hours after that, their life might be really going through something. But they showed you that one little slice of when it was live.
Yeah, up
and
on
you're
the
like,
beach with
oh,
the pina
your life
colada.
is great. No, their life might not be that great. You don't even know what's the camera's looking that way. What's over there?
Yeah, and you know what too? And I don't even hate on anybody when I see someone, you know, appearing to live the high life, because at least they're more like, well, let me just show them at least the time I was good, you know, when I was up. You know what I mean?
Sure,
So,
but you just can't go in there believing, okay, I saw one photo, so I know they're always up.
right.
It's not meant to be that way. And so enjoy. And look, I look at my phone, I look at Instagram as much as anybody else.
Sure.
But there's times every day, really, where I'm looking at them like, damn, man, they got that. Like, I had to go through actually and unfollow a lot of other engineers, other studios, because I would be like, man, they got that gear. They got that gear. And I know that people look at me that way too. And so I like to show things that I'm doing, not like, look at the new, and you know,
Right,
my
right,
sponsorships
right.
and stuff, I do have to share some images.
Sure.
But I don't want to be like, look at the new thing I got. It cost
Yeah,
that much.
just become like a perpetual like product placement.
I saw too many things and I would be sitting there feeling away like, damn, I don't have this, I don't have that. And it's like, yo, look up from your phone and look at what you got. Because I'm very lucky to have things that I have. So to be looking down at my phone and be sad about what I don't have, when I'm blessed to have this here,
yeah,
that's wild.
That's right.
That's wild.
And that's a good lesson, you know, just to wrap up with that. Like, you know, just be conscientious of trying to use everything in your life, social media included, for your healthy and betterment, you know? If you find yourself, you know, because when you look at the price of gear, I mean, and I really, you know, let's say you just picked being a beat maker or just picked being a DJ, your gear could become expensive. But engineering will become an endless list that you'll never be able to really fulfill it. You know,
No,
it's
I mean, look, I can't even front. I just bought a piece of gear at the lounge right now before I came on, but it's something like part of it for me. And just like you're saying, when you move into the new studio and you're like, what can I put here? I want to connect this here. I want to do this here.
I definitely, I'm proud that me and Gigi are running the Just Made Media studio back in Chicago now. And we definitely want to try to bring you out to Chicago and do a little something for the engineers out there, put a little something together where you can speak. And we'll definitely talk about that. And maybe lastly, too, you could talk about some of your credits. I know you've done a lot of interviews, so there's some things I don't want you to have to repeat too much. But just for our audience, let them know a little bit about some of your credits and what you're working on right now, and what you got coming out.
Absolutely. So I mean, I've been in-house engineer for Backwoods Studios, indie label based here out of Brooklyn and also out of Dallas, for about 15, 16 years now. So
Word.
Anything that Backwoods puts out, I have at least either mixed or mastered. I think I've mastered everything that we've put out in the last 15 years.
Word.
And I mix most of it. So that's Billy Woods, Elucid, Arm & Hammer as a duo, Prem Rock, Curly Castro and their group Shrapnel. I also do the R&B records that we put out. So Fielded, we got some other stuff coming up with her and some other singers coming soon. We did the joint Brass with More Mother. So, anything Backwoods related, I'm involved. Other things as well. I don't just work for them. I've done some major label stuff here and there. I mostly do independent. I find that the major label sessions I've done have been cool. Like I recorded Schoolboy Q. That was dope. I've engineered for the Roots. Like that's very dope.
Right.
People who I'm big fans of. And those sessions were great. I've also had some major label sessions with folks who will go unnamed that I was like, man, I don't ever want to do that again. But I'm lucky because I come to work every day and make records that I would listen to anyway.
No doubt.
And that's something I will never take for granted because most people don't. And even on the bad days, it's like, man, I don't like this song at all. But I'm in my own studio.
That's right. Working on the song.
With my hand-chosen team and my people around me. And it's like, you could be doing something very much worse than this, dog. So you might not like the song, but just tune the vocals and keep it moving, dog. Like it's all, you know what I mean? Like that's life. You can't.
That's a great piece of advice. There was, we got some young people coming through the studio. I'm trying to train them. That's how I tell them. I'm like, your opinion's cool. Like stand on your square, but there's a time where, I hate to say it, but no one's asking you for your opinion, man. Just be down today,
It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing for young folks. It's a hard thing for older folks, but especially young folks because they graduate, from the schools or wherever they're coming from, and they're like, I'm ready to come, and I've got a lot of musical opinions.
That's right.
I had so many musical opinions when I was 20. I knew everything when I was 20.
Right.
I now recognize that I don't know nearly half of anything.
Sure.
But when I was 20, I knew everything, and I was ready to tell everybody everything I thought.
Right.
And I remember the first time they got checked in a session. I was still in school. I was at Berkeley, and I was assisting for a buddy of mine. Right, he was a friend. He lived down the hall in the dorm. He was a friend of mine, and it was like a school class or whatever. A school project, and he had this vocalist, and she was kind of giving him a hard time. He was producing her. He's kind of giving him a hard time or whatever. And me and my buddy in there, we were cutting up. She was in the booth. She couldn't hear. We were kind of cutting up and talking shit. But the other thing is every time he hit the talk back to talk to her, in the background, she would hear us laughing or carrying on or whatever, which is the last thing you could ever hear. The worst thing that could be happening is a singer finishes a take, you press talk back, and they're hearing laughter.
That's right.
It's the worst thing that could happen in the world because now the only thing they're thinking is they're all laughing at me and you want me to sing this again?
Yeah.
And now I'm
totally zapped the confidence out the room.
You killed everything. And if you don't have confidence in a recording, that you can hear through the mic. You know when somebody is confident and for real with what they're performing or if they're shaky about it. This cat pulled me out in the hall and said, you're off this session right now and you can't ever assist for me again. And we're friends. I'll see you back at the dorm. But everything you're doing now is really inappropriate. It's really wild. And get your shit and go, basically.
Yeah.
And I was mad humbled because that was my homie is supposed to be no, we cool. He's like, no,
That's not cool.
It's not cool.
Wow.
You're messing me up right now. You're making me look bad. You're affecting the artist. You're affecting the session. You're affecting the record.
Word.
And as the assistant, it's your job to be here, support the record, support everything that's going on, and shut up and learn.
Yeah.
And just be ready to do. If someone needs some water, you should already have the glass in your hand. They need tea, you should know what flavor. That's your job.
No doubt.
You know? And one other quick one, because you need to get humbled every now and then. I'll never forget one of my idols, one of my mentors, a guy named Carl Beatty. He engineered Luther Vandross.
Wow.
B-52. Do you hear Love Shack? He mixed Love Shack.
Damn.
You know what I mean? So
big records.
Big records, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't get any bigger than you don't have to love the B-52s. As far as like a hit single, it doesn't get that much bigger than Love Shack.
Love Shack, that's right.
You know, that's a 40-year-old song. We talking about it like we all know. You know what I mean?
True.
And I was assisting him on a session, and he was like, "Yo, go grab a mic for me. Go grab whatever mic it was. I want to put it on the guitar." Okay. And I got up, walking out the room. He's like, "The fuck are you walking for? I need the microphone. Run and go get it." Damn. And like, this is in front of the band. This is in front of everybody in the session, because I thought I was cool. I'm slowing down the session. I'm at the bottom rung on the ladder. I'm the assistant. I'm not even the drum tech. I'm not the guitar player. I'm not the keyboardist. I'm not the artist. I'm not the producer or anybody. And I'm like sauntering like it's all good. Like, yeah, man, I'll be right back. The fuck are you walking for? Go get the microphone and run.
Yeah. The clock was ticking.
And I ran and I went and got the microphone. I came back and I was like, I'm sorry. He was like, yo, you are the one person in the room who cannot slow down the session.
No doubt.
Right?
These lessons, Joel's right here. These are
right?
lessons.
If the artist wants to take 4 hours recording this line, we sit here for 4 hours and we record this line over and over. If the producer wants to take a 2-hour break so he can go, take a nap, they can do that. You're the assistant. Run and get the fucking microphone. Mm-hmm. And it was very clear, and I never made that mistake again. Mm-hmm. Because you got to understand, like, sure, I could be like, wow. Well, I'm a person too, and whatever. Yeah, all that's cool, but right now we doing a thing.
It's a
job. And we all have positions. And right now, your position is to get the microphone as quickly as possible and don't let the vibe die. You're sauntering. Now the guitar player is like, damn, we waiting for this. Now the drummer's practicing their fills over here, making a lot of noise. Now the singer's annoyed because the whole vibe is off because the focus in the room is gone because I wanted to be cool and stroll to go get the microphone.
Yeah.
That's not it.
Just before I moved out of New York, I was interning down an engine room. Mm-hmm. And one of the last A rooms left in New York, and the owner had some similar jewels, man. They would do, actually anybody in New York, I don't know what it's like to get in there, but if you're serious about engineering, they take on a lot of interns out at the engine room. It's a good environment, man. There's like, they have a sister studio that's downstairs. They're most of their rooms are upstairs, and they kind of work together. They make you take a test in each room. You pass a test, you can engineer there. And you're going to get taught like real shit, like shit that you're talking about, Willie Green. And he said, your number one job as engineer is that you're playing host. Mm-hmm. He goes, you better know how to run the boards. That's fine. But once you get that part out of it, it's about personalities.
Yes.
It's about patience.
Yes.
It's about respecting the genre.
Yes.
Even though you say you're hip hop and Jesse Raxon said he's hip hop or whatever, what you're doing today in the session may not have anything to do with what he was doing. So it's almost like every artist is their own genre.
That's right.
And how are you going to learn about their genre if you don't take a moment to feel them? You got to just slow it down. You don't have nothing to say. You have big ears to listen and just absorb it, man. And then you'll probably be a great engineer because the record is going to sound like everybody was comfortable. Everybody was having fun. Everybody had the freedom to be themselves.
That part of it is so important. When you walk in the studio, when I pick a studio, if I'm not working here, I expect that everything sounds good. I expect that the console is in working shape. Whoever's running the console knows how to do it. I expect great sounds if I'm going in somewhere I'm paying money.
Yeah.
But do I like being there? Do I want to be there? Do I like the environment? Am I comfortable? Am I in a good place to make music? Mm-hmm. That comes down to the staff and the environment and how everyone's treated and how welcome it is and how comfortable it is. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to sound good when you get to a certain level.
That's right.
But is it my choice? There's hundreds of studios in Brooklyn. Why would somebody choose to come here?
Mm-hmm.
Because we make it enjoyable to be here. We make it comfy to be here. You
That's
come
right.
in and you're feeling good. You're gonna make better records if you're feeling good when you step in the booth. That's a fact.
That's a fact. That's a fact. And you know what? Like, big up to Chase. You know, he shows me a lot of people more in his age range than in the Chicago area, and that's we talk about it all the time. We pride ourselves in knowing that some of these artists, we're like an intermediary studio, you know, but we sound good enough. More importantly, people record records with us and they're like, man, we had a great time. When can I come back? You know,
Yep.
And a lot of times when he's hitting the street and he's representing, he doesn't have to name me. I tell him, yo, go represent for yourself. You go grab the session, you know. Now this is your opportunity. He just grabbed a new young lady who's been coming through, and she's already been back a few times. She said, every time I record here, what a pleasure. You know what I mean?
That's all you need to hear.
That's
you
all you
know,
need to hear.
because good quality is also kind of relative. Look at Spotify. You can go from one record to another. They both may be good, but that's artistic choice, right?
Yeah.
But the experience that somebody has in your studio is why they come back.
That's right.
Right?
That's
Anybody could have a microphone, but the way that you make me feel when I'm behind the microphone is why I choose an engineer. That's why I choose a studio.
Make someone feel like a star. Make them feel like this record.
That's the game.
Even if it doesn't go to the top, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
You know, like
every client who comes in your studio is your most important client. I learned that when I was working at the big studio when I first moved down here, because it was something like, I don't know, somebody very big wanted a room, and a much smaller independent artist had already booked it. And I was talking to the general manager. I was like, yo, can we just like bump them? Like, this is Beyonce or something like that. You know, with somebody of that caliber.
Yeah.
Of that caliber. And he was like, no, because if you bump this smaller artist, they will never come back here because you just told them you're not important enough of an artist. We'll move you for anybody else who wants to come in.
Wow. Yeah.
Just, you know, if Beyonce's team asks who's in there, they don't need to know who's in the studio. All they need to know is that it's booked, it's not available right now, and you'll get them in the second that you can. But you don't tell an artist, because maybe that other artist who's small now, they might blow up next week, and you blew them off, and they're going down the block to record. Whoever is booked in your studio is the most important artist that you have.
Jewels. That's a great place to leave it off. You know, we'll save some other technical talk for another time.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great interview. Just catching up with you, Willie Green. And you know what? I think that any aspiring producer, beat maker, engineer could really learn a lot from the talks from you, and we just appreciate it, man.
I appreciate it. I'm gonna come out to Chicago next. We're gonna do it again.
Yo, love it, brother.
That's
All
what's
right.
up. That's what's up.
So yeah, the first one-on-one talks. You know what I'm saying? With Willie Green from the Greenhouse Recording Studio in Brooklyn. And we'll see you next time. Peace.